You're listening to the PRO Media Network, the next level in entertainment.
Are you a Pelicans fan? Check out the Pelican Post Game Report on the PRO Media Network.
You're listening to the Pelicans Post Game Report on the PRO Media Network for all things Pelicans.
I'm Big Q chiming with you. Happy Easter. That's right. Happy Easter to all the great Pelican people out there across Pelican land. That's right. Broadcasting on Easter. That's right. Easter, y'all. And on Pelican Post Game Report, episode 351. That's right. 351 on the show. We'll be covering some interesting Pelican news. Of course, we, had the new Vice President of Basketball Operations signed David Griffin. That's a round of applause for all the fantastic Pelican fans across the globe. Of course, we cover the Saints as well as other boxing matters, but we're covering the Pelicans today. And on this show, I'd like to welcome y'all aboard, new and established listeners. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the thumbs up button, the notification button to get more great content like this. Now, in today's show 351, we'll be reintroducing, I guess you could say. I mean, we by this time, a lot of the great Pelican fans out there have heard David Griffin or read about David Griffin in some capacity, dealing with his plans to possibly move the Pelicans from I ain't gonna say a laughing stock, but more of a topsy-turvy team, trying to do the cheap man way of moving the organization into the future to compete with other fantastic organizations in the NBA. Of course, the wretched comments about the Pelicans being in a small market environment is hurting them, all this kind of nonsense, which is totally stupid. I mean, they have a boatload of teams that operate out of small cities, small markets, and still are very successful. OKC, San Antonio, Milwaukee, the list goes on. And some of those teams right now are thriving versus their big city counterparts, LA, New York, two of the biggest markets in the country, really stinking up the joint. But anyway, we'll get more into that in this full 30-minute show. We'll have an interview from David Griffin, the new VP of Basketball Ops for the Pels, and he'll elaborate on his vision. We'll play some of his interview at extensive length, and because we have a lot to talk about dealing with that. And of course, we'll have possible upgrades. We'll talk about possible upgrades and how this team could possibly upgrade the point guard position. Obviously, the positions of need for the Pelicans are the point guard position. Obviously, I would love Drew Holiday to stay where he is at the off guard position, which is more suits him. I don't like to see him handling the ball as much because he do turn the ball over a lot at that position. So I think his best position for him to play would be in the shooting guard position, the two guard position, off the ball. Small forward's position that poor Dale Demps was never able to satisfy in all his tenure here with the Pelicans. Man, I think David Griffin will solve that issue. And it could come in this upcoming draft, which we'll talk about as well. And then, of course, AD changing his mind, perhaps. Not saying that he did, but David Griffin has some credibility, to say the least, more credibility. He was the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, and he was over LeBron for 3 years, and they went to the finals 3 times during that period of time when he was with Cleveland. And ultimately, they did win a championship. So he has some great length of experience dealing with big personalities or dealing with superstar players. If you can successfully, as a general manager, deal with LeBron James, man, you can deal with Anthony Davis. But the issue is, can Anthony Davis and the Pelicans see eye to eye moving forward? That's a big question. That is a really big question. But anyway, we'll talk about that and more on the show. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, like I said, Pels, we did this 2 previous shows with the Pelicans. Introduced Vice President of Basketball Operations, David Griffin, who did say he had a lot of requests. He had a lot of stuff that he wanted to improve upon. which by contrast to things that he was saying to Mrs. Benson and the administrators, the top team over there at the Pelicans, he kind of gave me a look at what Dale Demps was working with versus what David Griffin is getting. You know, the guy wants an analytic department, in which we didn't have much of an analytic department, if any. You know, he wanted to add more executives around him. Dale Demps was basically the general manager and vice president of basketball operations and assistant GM. He didn't have much staff around him to help him with the decision-making process. He's really a cheap man way to go if you look at how the Pelicans was running it. And I could pretty much see where Anthony Davis was coming from when he said that they don't take the Pelican organization serious. They just care about the Saints. Well, I have to give credit. What credit is due to Mrs. Benson, because she's awesome. Tom Benson put his stamp on the Saints for many years, and the Pelicans could be her legacy. It could be her legacy because she's done a fantastic job holding it together, and she has hired the right personnel and basically made him the Mickey Loomis of the basketball side of things. And David Griffin said, I'm going to bring in a general manager, an assistant general manager, have an analytic department, and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, let's listen to what David Griffin had to say when asked about the question of AD. Possibly working with Anthony Davis, working it out where he stays. Perhaps he's just using it as leverage to trade him. Who knows, man? You know, it's this chess being played here. But let's see when the reporter asked Griffin about Anthony Davis and other questions they're going to hit him with as well. So let's take a listen to David Griffin.
Big part of taking this job is figuring out the Anthony Davis situation. How realistic do you think it is that you will be able to convince him that this is a place he wants to be?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I think in speaking to Rich, I think there's certainly an openness to it. And frankly, I think Anthony has some excitement about what we have the potential to do. At the same time, it's more about, are you all the way in or all the way out? And there's not going to be something where this is, I want to be here, but this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, and we very much want to achieve what we think you want to achieve. And hopefully he's as like-minded as the front office and ownership are.
David, is it too much made about small market and things like that? Is that too much made over that, or is that a dilemma that you have to deal with?
Yeah, so this came up in the interview process. The notion that small markets can't win is nonsense. We won in Cleveland. I mean, we had a parade. There was 1.6 million down there. So I can prove that you can win in smaller markets. What Dan Gilbert and his ownership group did was unprecedented in the amount of investment they put into it. But we won in a very inorganic way. It was all about win this championship today. And this is a situation where we get to be playing the long game and being mindful of sustaining success. So it's a different thing. And I think for this city and for this community, it's really meaningful because it's not easy to just flip the switch and win a championship tomorrow. But if you start building sort of to the ethos of the city, you can build something that attracts the right people. And we want to build something that lasts and that means something. And this city gives us a chance to do it because there's there, right? Cleveland's the same. Everyone's there because they love it. Everyone's there because they have incredible passion for it. That's what everybody's here for. And when we won a championship there, and generations of people coming up to me, literally in tears, that we delivered a championship for their grandfather to see or their great-grandparents to see, it was powerful. And to be part of seeing that, it's not just that you can win a championship in a smaller market. You should want to win championships in a market like this because it means more. Anybody can play the game if you cheat and you start way ahead. Let's win this together in a way that means something. So that was a big attraction to me, actually. So I got upset when they said the thing about a small market can't win. Tell that to all the small markets that have already done it. How big San Antonio?
How much did your relationship with Alvin from the past influence wanting to keep him around and building around him?
Well, keeping him around was a no-brainer for me in terms of once we met and talked about where he was in his thought process and his desire to be part of what the vision was. It was a given. You know, again, I mentioned the only reason it's meaningful to have a relationship with Alvin is we can look each other in the eye and call each other on things, right? And he was very much of the mindset to be that. When we were together in Phoenix I was with Alvin when he was an assistant. He had been a head coach multiple times before. And Alvin was really honest about the fact that he's at his best when he's fearless Alvin, when he's not looking over his shoulder, when he's not feeling like he has to do everything by himself. And I think we can put him in the space to be the best of his angels. And when he's the lesser of his angels, or when I am, one of the two of us will have it out with the other. So it's a good situation, I think.
Obviously, a lot of the talk when you come into the job is going to be about the roster, how you're going to build the players on the court. But how important is it to kind of build the infrastructure behind the scenes, the people in the front office, scouting and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's everything. And that's when I say the outrageous demands, that's where the investment comes from. It's not about what you pay any individual person. It's that you're willing to invest in organizational infrastructure. The bandwidth that Dan Gilbert and his ownership gave us was amazing. You know, our third in command there, Kobe Altman, is running that team now and doing an absolutely fantastic job. And it's because the infrastructure that exists there will run itself into perpetuity as long as they continue to elevate and support leadership. That's what you have to do here. You know, my biggest goal in all of this is whenever I get run out of town on a rail, and we all do eventually, this can sustain itself, and Mrs. Benson and whoever she wants to put in charge will know that they're starting on really solid footing.
That's David Griffin, VP Pelican basketball operations, talking about a bevy of different topics. We'll play a little bit more from David Griffin on the other side of the break, and we'll get into some more topics dealing with the Pelicans on this Easter. Happy Easter, y'all. We'll be back.
Get ESPN or Fox. Get straight sports talk from the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys.
Embrace Pet Insurance is more than just pet insurance. Embrace Pet Insurance promises to provide genuine support and certainty when your pet needs it the most. With personalized accident and illness policies, compassionate customer care, 24/7 access to veterinary professionals, flexible wellness plans, timely claims processing, and online customer portals, their values is what makes them Embrace. So, when selecting a pet insurance company as a partner in your pet's care, you deserve a company that has your pet's best interests at heart. Get top-rated and reviewed coverage for your pet today. Up to 90% back on bills at any vet, total protection, pet insurance and wellness, and dependable claims payments. Get the top-rated and reviewed coverage for your pet today. Go to EmbracePetInsurance.com. That's EmbracePetInsurance.com. Check the link in the description section below.
Get all the latest news and updates from your New Orleans Pelicans at the Pelicans Eye View. The new and official Pelicans Daily Journal, covering everything Pelicans.
Attention, everyone.
Get breakdown on games, free agent signings and potential moves. Unbiased opinions and straight up facts with statistical analysis from G Balance. Go to www.thesportsdaily.com/Pelicans-I-View.
Are you a boxing fan? Check out Ring Kings Boxing only on the PRO Media Network.
Do you need a domain name? How about a host for your website that can work with WordPress? Try Namecheap.com. They make registering, hosting, and managing domain names for yourself or others easy and affordable because the internet needs people. Namecheap is an ICANN accredited domain register and technology company founded in 2000. It's one of the fastest growing American companies according to the 2018 Inc. 5000. Celebrating nearly 2 decades of providing unparalleled levels of service, security, and support. Namecheap has been steadfast in customer satisfaction with over 10 million domains under management. Namecheap is among the top domain registers and web providers in the world. They offer a full selection of popular and unique domains along with fully featured hosting packages, SSL security certificates, WhoisGuard privacy protections, and more, all at the lowest prices in the industry. So if you need a domain name or hosting or anything else, think Namecheap.com. That's right, Namecheap.com. Check the description section below for link.
Sports fans are gearing up and saving big at Fanatics.com, the world's largest collection of officially licensed fan gear. From all the leagues, teams, and players you love, unique one-of-a-kind designs exclusively by Fanatics, and autographed collectibles from today's biggest stars shipped directly to your home. Join Fanatics Rewards for free to earn fan cash on every purchase. Shop now and for a limited time, get 20% off all orders. Fanatics.com, officially licensed everything.
There's a lot of reasons to be a fan, but only NBAStore.com has all the gear.
Are you a Pelicans fan? Check out the Pelican Post Game Report on the PRO Media Network.
You're listening to the Pelicans Post-Game Report on the PRO Media Network for all things Pelicans.
For all things Pelicans, man. You're listening to the Pelican Post-Game Report. I'm your host, Big Q. Happy Easter, everybody. On podcast 351, we covering Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Pelicans, David Griffin's comments this past week on the direction of the team. We played a slight smidgen of his 20-minute interview that he did. We're not going to play the whole thing, but of course, the thoughts on it. David Griffin, of course, he's a major league upgrade over what we've had in the Pelicans and Hornets organization. Prior to that, you probably could say the best general manager we had here was probably, I don't know, Dale Dempsey, Jeff Bauer. You ain't saying much. Alan Bristow and the rest of those guys, please. David Griffin is a totally different person, totally different executive, and he's never been a VP before, of course. This is the highest he's ever been in terms of position in any NBA organization. Previously, he was a general manager, but an effective one. Dealing with Cleveland, and that's a lot to say, because a lot of people can't be general managers with LeBron James type of personality who wants it all. Look, man, if you want championships, I'm going to need this, I'm going to need that, I'm going to need this. Then to actually go out, make it happen, bring the players, personnel, whatever you need to make it happen. He made a very interesting comment about building a championship with the Cleveland Cavaliers in an inorganic way, kind of forcing pieces together. It ultimately worked because they were spending so much money. They were over the cap, spending luxury money every year, and Dan Gilbert got tired of it. Now he doesn't have much of a team. You can't have I guess you can't have your cake and eat it too if you know how to do it. But David Griffin definitely has a great vision of the team. He's just not some guy talking the talk and walking the walk. The only thing I don't agree with him is Elvin Gentry. Elvin Gentry could have done a lot better the years that he's been here. We can give him injuries, but like I've said in previous podcasts, what coach in the NBA doesn't deal with injuries and still wins? That's the thing. When you're a coach, you're not going to have most of your top players sometimes. You have to be able to know how to use your team and get around that to win games when the stars are not there. But Elvin Gentry is not the right dude. He's a bull artist. He's a one-sided. There are many better coaches than Elvin Gentry out there. I don't know how he's going to slither his way through this thing, but guess what? Only time will tell, and there's not too much that they're going to tolerate with a new vice president coming in here and you continually turning out shitty performances as a coach, meaning that you're not delivering impactful, balanced schemes where you playing defense and offense and what it is. You're not talking to a guy that's covering his team that just watches half the games or 25% of the game. I watch all 100% of the Pelican games, and I'm not enthused about having Elvin Gentry over this team. I'm not. But sooner or later, they'll see, like we see, that he won't. Can he sustain success? I certainly hope so, because all I want the team to do is win. But if he's not the proper coach, He's not the right coach. He'll be showing up sooner or later. That's the thing. What they said, what was Tupac's thing? It's only so long fake thugs can pretend. Anyway, let's go into this next group of topics we're going to talk about before we go back into David Griffin's commentary. A new report came out by Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. This was a few days ago, where David Griffin was working on trying to communicate. He got permission from the Clippers to interview their assistant general manager, Tim Redden, for a senior front office role with the New Orleans Pelicans, which is, come on, this is probably going to be a general manager role. Now, Redden spent this time with Griffin for about 7 years, from 2010 to 2017, helping bring a championship to Cleveland and breaking the city's 52-year professional sports drought. That was huge. Now, he started as an intern in 07. Redden has worked his way up to become a senior vice president of basketball operations before he was dismissed along with Griffin in 2017. Now, in Los Angeles, he worked under Clippers general manager Mike Winger. And the pair's history, they began together in Cleveland from 07 to 2010 before Winger left to become the Thunder's assistant GM. Now, this is a lot of information because basketball is a fraternity and partly a sorority. So these people are going to work with the people they feel that they are more comfortable with. So he's just going to reach back into when he was general manager and pull the guys that he knows can get the job done. And Redden seems like a serious candidate to help, has a good relationship with Griffin, and we'll see how this progresses. This is still in the workings and going through. So as it stands, nothing much, but we do have some candidates for general manager. It's still Rojas, if you want to go and look at Langdon, and the rest of those guys that interviewed for the general manager position. So there are options out there. How fast the Pelicans want to get this done, it depends, because of course, you know, the draft is approaching, and then you have free agency, and the team everybody want to have that shared vision so they can guide going ahead. Now let's get back into some more of these topics. Hear a little bit of David Griffin again before we cover the rest of our topics for the end of the show. Here's Griffin.
Limit us one way or the other, right? I wouldn't pigeonhole us into a certain timeline. I would say that I think team building, everybody's become really lazy in this area, and everybody looks at it as binary. You either have to be terrible and tank, or you have to be trying to win this championship. And the reality is that's not how this works. And what we have to do is win, make several small wins every day, and cobble those together. Every deal we make stacks upon the last one. And there's going to be things we do that you're going to look at and you're going to say, what on earth are they doing? Well, we look at this as one deal feeds the next opportunity, And I think that's something that you'll see us invest in. And again, that's where the infrastructure thing comes from. We'll make a series of really good decisions, and hopefully eventually it all coalesces into we're a championship caliber team. I don't know how long that takes.
Are there any specifics that in particular, I mean, they're obviously adding a G League franchise. There's some things that are already occurring. Is there anything you feel is taking them from an infrastructure perspective where they were kind of behind the curve to now you believe that this franchise can be ahead of the curve?
Not really. I mean, I think, this is not a statement about what exists here at all.
Sure.
But when you go about the process of building infrastructure, you don't hire roles, you hire people. And I think what we need to do, and Chris Grant, my predecessor in Cleveland, said this very well, we need to get all the right people on the bus, and we can figure out what we call each other once we're rolling to the right place. And I think that's a really meaningful thing. I think the areas where you have the biggest ability to build competitive advantage in infrastructure, very much in performance and player care, is an area that I put a lot of weight on. It's an area that I'm very familiar with reworking and believing in. I think you can do the same thing on the analytics side, not necessarily relative to, we've got the greatest nerd cave in the NBA, which is what we called our group in Cleveland. It's not about that. It's, do we have the best ability to translate what the data reveals in a meaningful way? Because data is not an answer in and of itself. It's only useful insofar as the quality of questions you ask it to solve. And I think that's what analytics needs to be able to do. And so that requires not just the right people crunching numbers, but the right people communicating that. So
that's David Griffin, y'all, talking about putting the right staff together. We just had read an article for you dealing with the fact that they are looking at speaking with currently to Assistant General Manager Tim Redden out in the Clippers organization, who David Griffin has an extensive amount of dealings with in previous roles in the NBA. So when you look at it, man, I agree with what he's saying about having the right staff of people and having a shared vision to build an organization. The Pelicans last year were in the playoffs in a good way. They were able to smash Portland and move on to the second round against Golden State. But the team, if you look at it in a vacuum, Anthony Davis just wants to win. He just wants to win. And the Pelicans under Dale Demps have been, very inconsistent to say the least. Now the issue is dealing with what you have a guy like David Griffin with his credentials and his relationship with players and agents in the NBA is a lot different than what Dale Demps was described as aloof. That people didn't trust him. That's why in many different regards Dale Demps had to overpay for players to come and play in New Orleans, which to me boggled my mind because New Orleans has a tradition and culture that's unlike any in the world. I mean, it's a terrific place to live. The food, the festivals. I mean, it's a very unique region to live. So why is it so difficult to get basketball players down here? Why are you paying for them? And that in part was Dale Demps. And the fact that Pelicans were not looked at as an organization that seriously wanted to win championships, and consistently, uphold that standard of just being competitive. Look how Utah has done it over the years. They've consistently been in the playoff chase. They get knocked out in the first round, but they are there. At least they are there every year in a competitive way, looking to improve upon things. So I like what David Griffin is saying. I'm just gonna give him some time on Elvin Gentry. Y'all know how I feel about that. But anyway, let's move on to our next group of topics. We want to talk about the possible upgrades on the team. Now, of course, we're looking at it from the upgrades. Of course, what is it? Free agency and possible dealing with the draft. Now, of course, the Pelicans had the 7th round pick as it stands. Now, of course, they could move up. They have a 6% chance of moving up according to what I'm getting from, the NBA.com. It's listed as a 6% chance to move up into, I think it's registered as there it is. All 3 teams, of course, the teams that they beat out, they have a 6% chance of winning it and a 26.3% chance of moving into a top 4 capacity. That's according to NBA.com. So we'll see exactly how the Pelicans will be able to get this thing done. A lot of lottery, it's got to fall a certain way for us. We'll see in the end how it will work for the Pelicans. But from a standpoint of looking at some of the free agents that will be available, I mean, do we seriously think that the Pelicans might be able to land one of the top 10 people? We're talking about Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, Butler, Klay Thompson, Big Cat, who's restricted. I don't know if you want Porzingis, he's facing a rape charge. DeMarcus just had an injury. Al Horford is available. Kemba Walker might be priced out of your pair. Chris Middleton is a possibility, but inside the top 10, maybe not. But there are guys that you can look at the point guard position. I think the point guard position needs to be upgraded. Elfrid Payton, to me, is not the answer. They need somebody there that can kind of help score but distribute the ball as well. They need a good solid floor general. And I don't know if you're going to get this in this free agent class, but as far as that and a small forward, a person at the 3 spot to help take the pressure off and score. I mean, you have players in this free agency like Goran Dragic, who Elvin Gentry's had a lot of experience with when he was with Phoenix. So Goran Dragic has been linked with trades with the Pelicans before it just didn't materialize. Harrison Barnes will be available, and I've always been a Harrison Barnes guy. It's like, man, Harrison Barnes would definitely help the Pelicans. It's just how much you're willing to pay a guy like Harrison Barnes next year. Then, of course, other interesting restricted people is Scary Terry Rozier and, guys like that. Do you want to reach out to that. Then you have Kelly Oubre, who there was rumors about the Pelicans looking at Kelly Oubre as bringing him in at the small forward position. Of course, he's from this area, so I would love to have Kelly Oubre here. He's a very aggressive guy, good defender, can shoot the three-pointer, can run the court. Oubre is solid, man. It's a solid player for him. Then, of course, other players, you got Thad Young that's from the city. He'll be unrestricted. Contavious Pope, I don't know if they want to deal with him in that capacity. They were interested in Terrence Ross. J.J. Redick is out there. Then there's, but that's mostly at two guard. But it's kind of shallow when you look at the point guard position. Eric Bledsoe's another guy that's there. But, you know, the Pelicans might look into the draft. They might look at free agency. There's possible trades involved. But when you get down to it in the draft, I don't know if a guy like Jay Morant from Murray State will be available. Darius Garland from Vanderbilt, he could be there. Carson Edwards from Purdue. Joshua Ubaseli is another guy that's from overseas. And there's LSU's Tremont Waters. He's kind of smallish, but the kid could play. You know, so what do the Pelicans do? There's a lot of different options for the Pelicans, either free agency or, you know, looking at the draft. Now, as far as the small forward is concerned, I recently seen a mock draft with the Pelicans taking Cam Reddish. I'll actually love that. Now, that'll fulfill the small forward position because he's outstanding. The 6'9", 205-pound small forward from Duke, he's excellent. Then you have Romeo Langford. He's another terrific player. Nasir Little, Keldon Johnson. These guys are fantastic small forward prospects that could really help add defense. These guys can play defense. They can run the floor. Some of them are pretty good three-point shooters. But if you look at a guy like Cam Reddish, who, if you're lucky, that kind of guy will be there for you. He has great size, 6'9", 205, and he's a tremendous talent. Can the Pelicans kind of pair him with Anthony Davis? And addressing the Anthony Davis changing his mind, of course, Griffin is speaking to Anthony Davis's agent about trying to feel out what Anthony wants to do. Anthony wants to win, and Griffin says, listen, AD, I want to win. Let's win together. Either you're in or you're out. Well, Anthony Davis already said that he's out. I'm already out. I won't out. But the changing of the guard, you have to lend an ear and at least sit down and listen to what the man is saying. And the man is Griffin. Listen up. A lot of people say, you know what, Q? Let's just get rid of Anthony Davis, get Tatum, get some draft picks and start again. But imagine this, and I've said this before, if they can talk Anthony Davis into staying and make some moves, maybe they can attract a Jimmy Butler, or what would we look like then? You know what I'm saying? You're dealing with a high pick in a draft. You retain Anthony Davis. You make a move and get another piece along with Drew Holiday. What would we look like then? Just think about it. But anyway, that'll do it for the show. Thank y'all for listening to the Easter edition of the Pelican Post Game Report. Subscribe and share. Peace.
You're listening to the Pelicans Post Game Report on the PRO Media Network. For all things Pelicans.
Are you a Pelicans fan? Check out the Pelican Post Game Report on the PRO Media Network.
The Kleins family has been getting people to go nuts for old nuts since 1995. As legends have it, a number of the Kleins friends who heard the idea said you can go nuts trying to name a store like that. In the excitement, the Kleins thought their friends said old nuts instead of go nuts and proceeded to throw caution to the wind. Old Nuts has over 2,000 items, bulk and wholesale prices of a whole lot of your favorite fruits, nuts, and confections. A selection of gift baskets for any budget, any occasion, and provides one of the best and impressively rated shopping experiences on the web. Fact is, between their selection, service, speed, or their online presence in the virtual mirror retail experience, they have developed an enviable client base that's comprised of personal and professional customers who count on their remarkable range of gift baskets. Think of gift basket, think about Old Nuts. Check them out, oldnuts.com. Check the link in the description section below. Tea is your escape. It's your opportunity to create a moment for stillness, for reflection, for yourself. It's your connection to a world of senses, flavors both exotic and familiar, energizing and relaxing. It's your retreat from an increasingly turbulent world. It's the perfect paradox of simplicity and complexity. Teabox.com connects tea to people, uniting the richest flavors of the finest teas with the curious, the cultivated, and the adventurous all over the world. The freshest tea you've ever tasted, from crop to cup. There's simply no simpler way to experience the wonderful complexity of tea. Teabox, packing up the freshness. Tea thrives on freshness, and so do they. Teabox temperature and humidity control facility ensure that tea is maintained. The teas themselves go into oblique bags with aluminum layers that protect them from excess moisture and light. With Teabox, shopping for fresh, loose leaf tea is easy because you make an informed purchase. You know exactly where your tea is coming from. So for the freshest teas in the world, check out Teabox.com. That's right, Teabox.com. Check the link in the description section below.
Are you a boxing fan? Check out Ring Kings Boxing only on the PRO Media Network.
Go to newfrog.com for all of your electronic gadget needs. Fast becoming #1 online seller of cell phone and accessories, consumer electronics, automobiles and motorcycles, home and garden items, 5D diamond painting crafts, electrical and tool supplies, computer and networking supplies, lights and lighting supplies, sports and travel items, toys and hobby supplies, apparel and accessory, mother and kid items, health and beauty items, and much, much more. Newfrog.com has up to 70% off on some products. And you can check out their weekly promotions for all the best deals. Remember, when thinking online electronics and gadgets, think New Frog. Newfrog.com. Check the link in the description section below.
In today's world, children are bombarded with negativity on television, online, and at school. Our kids need to have a positive outlook on life and the world around them. I want to share with you a valuable resource you can use to bring positivity into your child's life. It's the new book, 101 Powerful Children Affirmations, a guide to positive child self-image, from author and dad, G.J. Barabino. This is a simple guide loaded with wonderful and inspirational affirmations designed to uplift young people's spirits. This positive and powerful children affirmational is chock full and loaded with wonderful inspirational sayings that will lift your child's self-image to whole new levels through the awesome power of spoken word. 101 Powerful Children Affirmations, a guide to positive child self-image, from author and dad, G.J. Barabino. Available on Amazon. Order a copy for yourself, your child's teachers, or anyone you know with children. 101 Powerful Children Affirmations, a guide to positive child self-image. Order your copy today.
What's up, Sports World? The PRO Media Network is on a mission to reach 10,000 subscribers. So besides our regular programs like the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, the Pelican Post Game Report, Rapid Fire TSC, and others, we will be expanding out and offering other content like movie, anime, and gaming reviews for your entertainment. So if you enjoy our content, please donate at our Patreon page. Also subscribe, comment, and share, and help the PRO Media Network reach 10,000 subs. Peace.